If you're over 60 and you had one of these foods for breakfast this morning, health experts say you may be quietly damaging the very organs keeping you alive. And the most alarming part? Most seniors eat at least 3 of these foods every single day. Not because they're careless, not because they don't care about their health, but because nobody ever told them the truth. What makes this especially concerning is that the damage doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, quietly, until one day, the body sends a signal that can no longer be ignored. But here's what most people never realize. The foods causing the most harm aren't the obvious ones. They're not the foods with skulls on the label. They're the ones sitting in your refrigerator right now, the ones you've been eating for decades, the ones that feel familiar, comfortable, safe, and that's exactly what makes them so dangerous after the age of 60. My name is Dr. James Hartwell, and this channel exists for one reason: to help seniors stay informed, stay independent, and stay healthy. Every week, we bring you research-backed information that your doctor may not have time to cover in a 10-minute appointment. Because the truth is, what you eat after 60 affects your body very differently than it did at 30 or 40. Your metabolism changes, your kidneys filter more slowly, your heart works harder, your brain requires different fuel, and certain foods that were once tolerable can become genuinely harmful as you age. Today, we're covering 7 of them, and I want you to stay until the very end, because the last one on this list is the one most seniors never suspect. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from today. Drop your city or state in the comments. I read every single one. Now let's get into it. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert is 68 years old, retired teacher, grandfather of 4. Every morning for 30 years, Robert started his day the same way: a bowl of cereal, a glass of orange juice, and a couple of pieces of toast. He thought he was doing everything right. He wasn't overweight. He exercised when he could. He didn't smoke. But over the past 2 years, Robert started noticing small things: fatigue that didn't go away after sleep, a little more swelling in his ankles than usual, moments of brain fog that made him reach for a word he knew and couldn't find it. He mentioned it to his doctor. Blood work came back, and that's when Robert learned something that changed everything he thought he knew about his morning routine. His blood sugar was dangerously elevated. Not because he ate candy or drank soda, because of what he ate every single morning. Which brings us to food number 1, refined breakfast cereals. And before you say it, yes, even the ones that say heart healthy on the box. Health experts have observed that many popular breakfast cereals marketed to older adults are loaded with added sugars and refined carbohydrates that cause dramatic blood sugar spikes within minutes of eating. Now, when you're younger, your body handles those spikes fairly well. But research suggests that after 60, insulin sensitivity begins to decline in many adults, which means your body becomes less efficient at managing those sugar spikes. And when blood sugar swings become chronic, the consequences can be serious. We're talking about increased risk of cognitive decline, increased strain on the kidneys, increased inflammation throughout the body, and a cardiovascular system working overtime just to compensate. Many doctors recommend looking at the sugar content on your cereal box before you ever open it again. If it contains more than 5 grams of sugar per serving, it may be quietly working against you. Robert switched to steel-cut oats with no added sugar. Within a few months, his energy returned, his swelling improved, and his doctor told him his blood work looked better than it had in years. Small change, big difference. But refined cereal is only part of the story, because there's another breakfast staple that sits on almost every American table. And for seniors over 60, it may be doing far more harm than good. Meet Linda. Linda is 72. She lives alone in a small house in Ohio. Her children visit on weekends. She babysits her grandchildren on Thursdays. She loves gardening. Linda has always been careful about her salt intake. She never added extra salt to her food. She avoided chips and pretzels. But about a year ago, Linda started experiencing headaches in the morning. Her blood pressure, which had always been manageable, began creeping up despite her medication. Her doctor was puzzled. Then a dietitian asked Linda one simple question: "Do you eat deli meats or processed lunch meats?" Linda nodded. Turkey slices on her sandwich every day for lunch. Low fat. Seemed healthy. But what Linda didn't know was that those thin, convenient slices of turkey were quietly flooding her body with sodium levels that were undermining everything else she was trying to do. Which brings us to food number 2, processed deli meats and cured meats. According to specialists in cardiovascular health, processed meats, including deli turkey, ham, bologna, salami, and even certain chicken slices, are among the highest sodium foods in the average American diet. And sodium isn't just about blood pressure. After 60, excess sodium can accelerate kidney decline. It can increase fluid retention, which puts added strain on the heart. And research suggests that high sodium diets are linked to increased stiffness in the arteries, making it harder for the heart to do its job with every passing year. But here's where things get more serious. It's not just the sodium. Many processed meats contain nitrates and nitrites, preservatives used to extend shelf life and enhance color. Health experts have observed a growing body of research connecting high consumption of these compounds to increased inflammation in the body. And chronic inflammation after 60 is something we should all be paying close attention to, because it doesn't just affect the heart, it affects the brain, it affects the joints, it affects your ability to wake up in the morning and feel like yourself. Linda replaced her daily deli meat sandwich with grilled chicken she prepared herself on Sundays. Simple, affordable, and her blood pressure responded within weeks. Her doctor reduced her medication dose. She told me in a message she hadn't felt that good in years. Now we're going to talk about something many seniors drink every single morning without a second thought, and the research around it is more concerning than most people realize. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. Have you experienced any of the symptoms we've mentioned so far? Fatigue, brain fog, unexpected blood pressure changes? Tell me in the comments. You'd be surprised how many people are going through the same thing and don't know the cause. This next one surprises people because it's been called a superfood. It's been marketed as natural, as healthy, as something seniors should drink every day. I'm talking about fruit juice. Meet Susan. Susan is 64, former nurse, sharp as a tack, watches her diet carefully. Every morning, Susan drank a large glass of orange juice, sometimes grapefruit juice. She figured it was better than soda. She figured the vitamin C was worth it. But Susan started noticing something troubling. Her fasting blood sugar readings, she checked them regularly as a former medical professional, were climbing, not dramatically, but steadily, month after month. She couldn't figure out why, until she eliminated the juice for 30 days and watched her readings stabilize almost immediately. Food number 3, fruit juice. Even 100% no sugar added fruit juice. Research suggests that when fruit is juiced, the fiber that naturally slows sugar absorption is removed entirely. What remains is a concentrated hit of natural sugars, often comparable in quantity to a can of soda, with very little nutritional benefit to justify the spike. For seniors managing blood sugar, prediabetes, or even just trying to protect cognitive function, liquid sugar in any form is something many doctors recommend reconsidering. And here's something Susan didn't expect. Health experts have observed that certain juices, particularly grapefruit juice, can interfere with how the body processes common medications, including blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications, and several heart-related drugs. If you take any of these and drink grapefruit juice regularly, please speak with your doctor or pharmacist as soon as possible. That interaction alone could be affecting your health in ways you haven't connected yet. Susan switched to eating whole fruit instead, an actual orange, with the fiber intact, and her blood sugar responded in a way the juice never allowed it to. Remember this point about fiber, because it becomes important when we get to the final food on this list. We're at the halfway mark now. And I want to pause and say something. If you're over 60 and you're watching this right now, you are doing exactly what you should be doing. You're asking questions, you're staying informed, you're taking your health seriously, and that matters more than most people realize. If you're still here, type health in the comments below. It lets me know this information is reaching the people who need it most. Now let me tell you about Walter. Walter is 76. He spent decades working in construction. Built things with his hands his whole life. Tough guy, proud guy, independent. After he retired, Walter made one promise to himself. He was never going to be a burden to his family. He was going to stay in his own home, take care of himself, not end up in a facility somewhere watching his life pass through a window. Walter ate what he'd always eaten, hearty food, filling food. He loved his white bread, his rolls, his biscuits with breakfast. It felt like home, felt like comfort. But over the past few years, Walter's doctor kept repeating the same concern. His triglycerides were elevated. His good cholesterol wasn't where it needed to be. His energy was declining, and the independence Walter had worked so hard to protect was beginning to feel fragile. Food number 4: white bread, white rice, and other refined grains. According to specialists in metabolic health, refined grains are stripped of the bran and germ during processing. What's left is essentially a starch with very little fiber, very little nutrition, and a very high glycemic impact. For seniors, this matters enormously. Research suggests that diets high in refined grains are associated with higher triglyceride levels, increased belly fat, and a greater risk of metabolic syndrome, a cluster of conditions that raises the risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes simultaneously. And for the brain? Health experts have observed that blood sugar spikes from refined grains can interfere with cognitive performance. Over time, some researchers believe repeated glucose spikes may contribute to the kind of inflammation that affects memory and mental clarity. Walter didn't eliminate all grains. He simply switched: whole grain bread, brown rice, oats. He told his daughter it felt like a small sacrifice at first, but 6 months later, his blood work improved significantly. He had more energy on his afternoon walks, and he's still in his own home, still independent, still building things in his garage on weekends. That's the whole point. But we're not done yet, because what comes next is something most people over 60 don't even think about as a food concern. And yet, health experts say it may be one of the most damaging things seniors consume on a regular basis. Most seniors never hear this warning. So I want you to pay close attention here. We're going to talk about something found in thousands of products on grocery store shelves, something added to foods you may not even realize contains it, and the impact it has on the aging body, particularly on the liver, the heart, and the brain, is something researchers have been studying with growing concern. I'm talking about added sugars hidden inside foods that don't taste sweet. Meet George. George is 71. He lives in Florida, retired accountant, spends his mornings reading the paper and drinking coffee. George didn't have a sweet tooth. He wasn't a dessert person. He avoided soda and candy. But George's blood tests over a 3-year period showed steadily rising markers for liver inflammation. His doctor was concerned. George couldn't understand why. Then a nutritionist went through his pantry and found added sugar in his pasta sauce, in his salad dressing, in his flavored yogurt, in his granola bars he thought were health food, in his healthy crackers, in his ketchup, his bread, his canned soups. George wasn't eating dessert, but he was consuming more added sugar per day than most people would believe. Food number 5: ultra-processed foods with hidden added sugars. Research suggests that excessive added sugar consumption, even when it doesn't come from obvious sweets, is associated with a condition called non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and health experts have observed that this condition is increasingly common in adults over 60, because the liver, like the kidneys, becomes less efficient with age. It processes sugar more slowly, and when it's overwhelmed repeatedly over months and years, it begins to store fat. The consequences can include fatigue, digestive discomfort, and over time, more serious complications. Many doctors recommend reading ingredient labels, not just nutrition labels. If any form of sugar appears in the first 5 ingredients of a product, it may be worth finding an alternative. Corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, cane sugar, dextrose, maltose, sucrose, they all count. George cleaned out his pantry. He made his own pasta sauce, which takes 20 minutes and tastes far better. He chose plain Greek yogurt and added his own fruit. He found salad dressings with no added sugar, and his liver markers improved significantly within 4 months. His doctor called it a remarkable turnaround. Small changes, sustained over time, that's all it takes. But here's where things get even more serious, because food number 6 is one that millions of seniors consume specifically because they think it's good for them. And the reality is far more complicated. We're going to talk about sodium now, not just in processed meats like we covered earlier, but in a specific category of food that health-conscious seniors reach for all the time. I'm talking about canned soups and canned vegetables, even the low-sodium versions, even the ones that say heart healthy on the label. This one hits close to home for a lot of people, because canned soup feels like comfort. It feels like the kind of simple, warm, easy meal that makes sense when you're cooking for one, when you're tired, when it's cold outside. And nobody is telling you it's wrong to find comfort in a warm bowl of soup. But here's what the label doesn't tell you clearly enough. A single can of popular soup, the kind you've probably had in your pantry for years, can contain anywhere from 800 to over 1,400 milligrams of sodium. The general recommendation for adults over 60 is to stay below 1,500 milligrams total per day. One can of soup can nearly seal or completely consume your entire daily allowance. Before breakfast, before lunch, before dinner. And the result? For seniors already managing blood pressure, kidney function, or heart health, that sodium load adds up quietly, day after day, meal after meal. Health experts have observed that chronically high sodium intake in older adults is linked to accelerated kidney decline, because the kidneys must work harder and harder to filter the excess. And once kidney function begins to drop significantly, it affects every other system in the body: energy, blood pressure, fluid balance, bone health. The kidneys are doing more for you than most people realize. And the foods you eat, including the ones that feel wholesome and simple, directly determine how long they can keep doing it. Many doctors recommend making soups from scratch when possible, or choosing brands specifically designed for renal health with genuinely low sodium counts, or adding fresh or frozen vegetables instead of canned, which retain nutrition without the sodium load. Frozen vegetables, in particular, are one of the most underrated tools in a senior's kitchen. We'll come back to that point, because it connects to the final food on this list. And the final one is the one that tends to surprise people the most. If you're still watching, type yes in the comments right now, because what I'm about to share with you in the final 2 foods is information that most seniors never receive until after there's already a problem. And I don't want that to be your story. Before the final food, let's talk about something that affects memory and independence and the ability to stay sharp as the years go on. Because one of the greatest fears among the seniors I hear from isn't just physical decline, it's cognitive decline. It's not remembering the grandchildren's names, it's getting lost somewhere familiar. It's losing the mental sharpness that has defined who you are your whole life. And food number 7 is directly connected to that fear. Meet Margaret. Margaret is 69, retired librarian, reader, crossword puzzle enthusiast. She prided herself on her sharp mind. But over the past 18 months, Margaret started noticing things. She'd walk into a room and forget why she came. She'd lose her train of thought mid-sentence. She'd read a paragraph and realize her mind had wandered entirely. She mentioned it to her doctor, who asked a simple question. How often do you eat fried foods? Margaret thought about it. She wasn't a fast food person, but she did fry things at home. Fried chicken once a week, fried fish on Fridays, fried potatoes at breakfast sometimes. Her doctor explained something that stopped her cold. Food number 7, regularly consumed fried foods. Research suggests that frequent consumption of deep-fried or pan-fried foods is associated with increased levels of advanced glycation end products, compounds that form when food is cooked at high temperatures in oil. These compounds, often called AGEs, trigger inflammatory responses in the body, and health experts have observed that high levels of inflammation are increasingly being studied in connection with cognitive decline and brain aging. A growing body of research also links regular fried food consumption in older adults to increased risk of heart disease, higher LDL cholesterol, and impaired vascular function, which directly affects how much blood and oxygen the brain receives. And the brain needs blood flow to function, to remember, to reason, to stay sharp. Many doctors recommend limiting fried foods to an occasional treat rather than a regular part of the weekly routine. Baking, roasting, steaming, and air frying can replicate many of the textures people love without the oil saturation and the inflammatory compounds that high heat frying produces. Margaret made the shift. She didn't eliminate everything she loved. She simply changed how she prepared it. Baked fish on Fridays instead of fried, roasted potatoes with olive oil instead of pan-fried, and within 3 months, she told me something remarkable. The brain fog she'd been quietly dreading had lifted. Not entirely. Not overnight. But enough that she noticed. Enough that her family noticed. Enough that she felt like herself again. And that's the whole point. Let's bring this all together, because you've stayed with me through 7 foods that health experts believe may be quietly working against seniors across America every single day. And I want to make sure you leave here with something clear, something actionable, something real. Food number 1 was refined breakfast cereals, high in sugar, high in refined carbs. And for seniors whose insulin sensitivity has declined with age, a daily source of blood sugar disruption that can affect energy, cognition, and long-term metabolic health. Food number 2 was processed deli meats, high in sodium, high in preservatives, and for heart and kidneys that are working harder than they did 20 years ago, a daily source of strain that builds quietly over time. Food number 3 was fruit juice, even the pure, no sugar added kind. Without the fiber of whole fruit, juice delivers a concentrated sugar spike that affects blood sugar in ways that whole fruit never does. And if you take medications, especially for blood pressure or cholesterol, grapefruit juice in particular may be interfering in ways you and your doctor should discuss. Food number 4 was refined grains, white bread, white rice, foods that feel like comfort and familiarity, but that research increasingly connects to elevated triglycerides, metabolic strain, and the kind of chronic blood sugar cycling that affects both heart and brain over time. Food number 5 was ultra-processed foods with hidden added sugars. Not desserts, not candy, the pasta sauce, the salad dressing, the granola bars, the canned goods. Read the ingredient list, not just the nutrition facts, and if sugar is hiding in the first 5 ingredients, consider what's in your pantry right now. Food number 6 was high-sodium canned foods, including soups and vegetables that feel wholesome and simple. For kidneys that are working harder as you age, daily sodium overload is one of the most preventable sources of long-term decline. Frozen vegetables over canned whenever possible, homemade soups over store-bought whenever time allows. And food number 7 was regularly consumed fried foods, not an occasional indulgence, but a weekly habit. Research increasingly connects frequent fried food consumption to inflammation, vascular decline, and the kind of brain aging that shows up as fog before it shows up as anything else. 7 foods, all of them common, all of them found in millions of senior households across this country, all of them quietly adding up. And here is what I want you to hold on to. You don't have to change everything overnight. That's not what this is about. One swap at a time, one meal at a time. Whole fruit instead of juice, whole grain instead of white, homemade instead of canned, baked instead of fried, water instead of something sweetened. These aren't dramatic sacrifices. They are small, consistent choices. And research shows that small, consistent choices, made daily over months and years, are the ones that determine how we age. Not just how long, but how well. With energy, with clarity, with independence, still in your own home, still watching your grandchildren grow, still being the person your family counts on, still being you. Your health is one of your greatest assets. It is worth protecting. It is worth the effort. And you deserve to have the information that makes that protection possible. Before I go, I want to ask you something. Which of these 7 foods surprised you most? Tell me in the comments below. And if you found value in this video today, please share it with someone you care about, because there's a good chance someone in your life is eating 3 or 4 of these foods right now and has no idea what they may be doing to their body. This information could make a real difference for them. Small changes today can make a big difference tomorrow. Your health is one of your greatest assets. Protect it wisely. and I'll see you in the next video.